May the words on our lips and the meditations upon our hearts be always pleasing in your sight, O God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Please be seated. So if you've been paying attention over the past couple of weeks, you've undoubtedly noticed a recurring theme in our texts. And one word in particular has come up over and over and over. And that word is love. And for anyone keeping score, I've counted that in 2 weeks, in between the letters of John and the Gospel of John, we've heard the word love 40 times in 28 lines of text. I think it's safe to say that John wants us to get that love is important. And today in the gospel, we find it is so important that it is elevated. And we're reminded that in this new covenant, Jesus issues only one command: that you love one another as I have loved you. And I think it's worth pointing out that this is a little bit different from what we've heard in the other gospels. In Matthew and Mark, when Jesus is asked, what's the greatest commandment? And he gives us two. Love God with your whole heart and your mind and your soul, and love your neighbor as yourself. He says that's the law on which all the law and the prophets hinges. But here, we no longer hear about this obligation to love God. And that's not because there is no obligation to love God, but rather the obligation to love God with heart and mind and soul is fulfilled in our loving one another. Just before this text today, Jesus says, "My Father is glorified by this, that you become my disciples and bear fruit, fruits of love." We show our love for the Creator by loving the creation and the creatures. So this is our one commandment as followers of the way of Jesus, to love one another. But here's the thing about love. Love can't be commanded. A love that is coerced is no love. Love is an expression of freedom, or it's not love at all. And Jesus knows this. And it's for this reason that I think he makes this radical move, completely reframing our understanding of the dynamics between our relationship with God. No longer in terms of master, servant, or ruler and subject, but of friends. I no longer call you servants. I have called you friends. And it's through this lens of friend that this image of fruit bearing, I think, really comes home to us. Because acts of love between friends just flow naturally. To ask our good friend why they do the things for us that they do, or to ask us why we do the things we do for our friends, would be like asking the apple tree, why do you let go of your fruit? It's an absurd question. It's just what it does. And there's something about this dynamic of friendship. It's this relationship where that foundation of mutual care and trust and concern is so firmly established that it creates a kind of safe space where we find a freedom to discover and actualize our own capacity for goodness, because we never have to fear of being abandoned when we inevitably misstep. A good friend offers support and comfort, yes, and guidance when we need those things, but a friend does so much more. A friend encourages us and empowers us through their trust in us to grow into our own full potential. A friend sees the good in us and reflects that goodness back to us, even in times when we might have difficulty seeing it ourselves. And the friend is unique in their ability to speak hard truth to us, to hold us accountable to that good in a way that we will actually listen, because we know there's no ulterior motive, only a concern, a deep concern for our best interest. It's as though the quality of the relationship itself has this power to elicit the best from us, not out of a sense of duty or obligation, but as the natural expression of that mutual care and concern. And the friend doesn't do these things because of an expectation of a return, but because it's simply what it is to be a friend. But that's not to say that we don't get anything out of friendship. Far from it. I'm sure if we just spend a moment and just recall to our mind our best friends, immediately I'm sure we get a sense of joy, of deep and profound joy in that relationship. And it's a joy that is distinct from that happiness that we so often seek. It's not like that high buzz we get in fleeting moments of self-indulgence, but it's something deeper, something more grounded, something complete. It's like the joy a parent feels when, after hours of running along next to the child, holding that bicycle seat, and then tending to scrape knees after they've fallen, that time when finally they run and they let go, and the child continues, never again needing us to hold that seat. Or it's like the joy that members of a sports team feel when they put aside their own need to be the star, and they work and they practice developing this relationship with one another. And then come game time, when they execute plays like a well-oiled machine. There's something paradoxical and almost counterintuitive about this joy, because we find it really when we stop looking for it. When we stop making it about receiving the joy and just give ourselves over into the giving and the participating in the relationships. It's a joy that's complete because it's shared and amplified in the sharing. It's this kind of joy that I think the poet Khalil Gibran speaks of in his statement, "When we love, we should not say that God is in my heart, but rather I am in the heart of God." And the invitation this morning is a reminder that there's a joy in following this way of Jesus, this way of love. There is an expectation, yes, we have been given a commandment, but it's not a burdensome commandment. It's one to rejoice in. And that joy is at the heart of the gospel that we proclaim. Jesus has done all that is necessary to remove the barriers between us and God. He's gone to the ultimate length to demonstrate a love that is unshakable. He's taken on our life and entered into our death so that we might be freed, not only from sin, but from our fear of death, and thereby open to life. And he invites us into a pattern of life and a pattern of love built on this firm foundation of trust and love and support. And he trusts us. He trusts us as partners in this ministry and welcomes us as sharers in the joy. Like branches on the vine, it's true that without the support and nourishment of the vine, the branch withers. But it's also true that without the branch, the vine doesn't bear fruit. Jesus trusts us as partners in this ministry. He trusts in our capacity to love and our ability to bear fruits that last. He trusts our capacity for growth, for our ability to learn from our own experiences of joy and sorrow, and grow in wisdom and empathy and compassion. He trusts that we can own our own projections and learn to see the beloved child of God in the face of the other. He trusts in our ability to be generous. He trusts us to be creative, to find ways to break through the divisions, the dividing walls, as we find ways to befriend the other and to invite others in to this pattern of abundant life where we find there is room for all, And there's a joy that is God's own joy made complete in our love for one another. And the only thing that's being asked of us is to abide in that trust. Abide in that love, that it might be for us a source of strength, that we might receive these great gifts of life and love and freedom, and then share them, because it's what friends do.